I would say being consistent in doing so. You know, like my freshman, sophomore year, I didn't play a lot of nickel, and then I thought that when I did start playing, I would be all gassed, and then, you know, when you're tired, your mental's not working as good, and that didn't happen to me as much as I thought it would. But I feel like Coach Kalaji did a great job of preparing me for those moments and giving me enough reps and running me enough in practice in order for me to perform like I did in the games.
Keanu, everyone's situation is different, but I mean, for the most part, thinking about this last round with the senior class, how excited are you to get this opportunity with these guys today?
You know, it's never going to get old, man. I love this group of guys, and they love me, so I feel like we just got to go out there and have fun while we can. Time flies past, and you got to know that, especially in college, because everybody said it in high school to me, but they never really registered until after high school. So I'm making sure I'm taking everything in I can in college, because people said the same exact thing, and I'm not going to overlook it this time.
Is this bowl game important to you and this team?
Oh yeah, you know, any extra game we get to have is important because, of course, we didn't end like we wanted to last week or against Minnesota, but we still have a chance to end on a win and end on a good note.
And I know Dean said you only had about 3 bowl practices so far, but anybody standing out in your eyes so far who's flashed?
Not really. I would say, as a D-line, I would say James Thompson. He's definitely been coming out here giving it his all and showing some moves he haven't showed in the season, which is a little confusing, but he's doing his thing today, especially today. He had a heck of a practice.
What type of moves?
I mean, just simple D-line moves, but he don't use them all the time, but he's starting to open his box of tools.
Yeah, some guys, seniors, are going to have a decision whether they want to take advantage of that extra year and come back still. You probably have a decision to make at the end of the season. Have you thought much about your future, or how are you handling that?
Yeah, that's been on my mind this past week. You know, that's why I've been. This past week, I've really been with family, talking to my parents, especially talking to coaches, getting rehab done, and just thinking about my next steps. And like at this point, I'm thinking about coming back. I feel like I got some room to improve mentally, like I said, and physically, especially with testing and strength and certain lifts. I'm still waiting on the evaluation.
The NFL?
Yeah, the NFL evaluation, and we'll see how that plays out.
Was there a point in your mind where you thought, my goal is to leave after my junior year? Because a lot of guys have that goal.
Oh yeah, freshman year. I thought, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm playing as a freshman. I can do this. Like, I could leave after 3 years. And like, that's just my young mind talking. But when the time comes, you know, you got to actually sit down and think, do you have everything that it takes to go to that next, to make that next step? Because once you make it, you can't come back.
Well, I remember in a Zoom call, you kind of slipped up and talked about how many years you wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And no one really asked you about it. That's why, because I'm sure a lot of guys are like, hey, if I'm ready to go, let's go. But what kind of feedback have you gotten from, say, Coach Kalaji and Coach Christ about whether you're ready or not?
The same thing. I mean, it felt like I would have been ready, but like this isn't the year to leave early, especially for the COVID guys that stayed back.
Yeah.
And it's a big class, so it like slightens my chances of getting drafted. So they can't hurt.
Is there anything that could potentially come, excuse me, from the evaluation that would change your mind?
First round. That's about it, man.
What do you think you add to that?
How were the discussions with the family when it comes to that? You know, like, what did you discuss with your family, like details or just like the points of whether or not to return or not?
I mean, it was just kind of reassurance. You know, like my parents are pretty laid back. My dad is really the football guru. Then my mom is more education. So even like when I was picking my schools, they would just let me decide and like have my back or tell me the pros and cons of doing so, what they think of the pros and cons of doing so. And that's what I love about my family. Like, they're not gonna pressure me into doing one thing or the other. Like, we're not down super bad on money or anything like that where I absolutely need to go to the league. But you know, my mom especially, I talked to her and basically she said go with my heart and do what I feel is right, and that's what I love about her.
Jack talked about when the bowl selection came out too. Even though you guys would have, of course, loved to have played for the Big Ten championship, you guys were a little banged up, and this gave you a chance to recoup a little bit. You know, how have you gotten to recoup? How did you seem like you guys just recover in this time?
Oh, I did great on my recovery. You know, I've came in like even on that break, we had a little break, a week, whatever. I was coming in. I lived 30 minutes away, so I would come back. I would go home, come back to rehab like 3 or 4 times a week, and it was pretty nice. You know, I feel like I seen a lot of people in there who I thought would go home and see their family, but evidently recovery is a lot more important than some things sometimes.
I think with Arizona State too, I know tape is still early, but what do you guys know so far in this matchup? I mean, it should be a physical one.
Yeah. I mean, I've been watching a little bit. I started watching yesterday actually, but I've just really noticed they have a really elusive quarterback. He's like a Martinez type, so it's nothing we really haven't seen before, but just making sure we can handle our business and stay gap sound so stuff like that won't happen where the QB can get out and make plays.
What have you noticed from Isaiah Mullings this season? Because, you know, he's a guy that is impactful on the defense, but maybe we just don't see, you know, from the outside what he does and helps the defense out.
You know, Big Tree, that's his nickname, Big Tree. He a massive man, you know, like a lot of people don't see, like, it's hard to move him. Like he's very, very strong, and a lot of people don't see that, but like he makes plays, but like there's not a lot of times they're not like eye-popping plays, but we still need those made, you know, and he's been making jump mentally as well, like knowing the playbook a little better than me sometimes, so I can props him on that, and yeah.
It's got to be pretty big for you to call him Big Tree, for you to call him a big man. I mean, you're a big man.
Yeah, that's a
yourself.
big man, you know. He don't look like it all the time, but he big. He got some sneaky speed too, man.
Being signing week and everything, I was wondering, have you talked to Curtis Neal at all, the defensive lineman?
No.
Okay, just want to check. All right.
That's it. Just for next year, I know that there's still one more game, but yeah, I know with Matt Henningsen and whatnot, like going on, who do you feel, you know, will need to step up at the DN group for next year, you know, and work and you know, obviously continue the tradition what you guys have set
I mean,
forth?
I would say everybody. You know, it's the next up mentality. There's not going to be one person where you say, oh, this is the next guy. You know, you got to come out there and prove it every day that you're the next best guy. And I feel like that's what a lot of people got to work out on in the offseason, including myself. You know, my spot's not final. Everybody think, oh, he's a starter now, he's going to be a starter next year. That's not always the case, especially at Wisconsin. I feel like you get a fair shot to prove yourself each week, and I feel like that's what we're going to have to do, and that brings out the best in yourself is the competitiveness, and we do a great job of that as a defense.
Last question for you. Do you have a favorite Jim Leonhard story?
No, not really.
Is there one that sticks out from you from?
I don't. Like, he's like, I haven't really, I talked to him, but like, we haven't really had no sit-down conversation. He comes into our D-line room and mess around, but like, there's not really nothing spectacular that I got to say.